Radio show, and where the agendas are only to tell our stories our way. Where an eclectic group of hosts deliver a different show every Sunday. The show is produced by Ever Beyond Radio and broadcasted over Wolf Spirit Radio Network. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our worlds.
Welcome. You're listening to It's Your Life, Live It to the Fullest. I'm your host, Joyce Wheeler. It is Sunday, May 22nd, 2016. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio and Ever Beyond Radio. Please remember that we are listener sponsored, so click that donate tab and show some love. And today, my guest is someone that you all know, JP. JP, as you know, produces this show of mine on the fourth Sunday of every month and also produces various other shows. So JP, welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you doing?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm well. I'm just checking my volume because I seem to be having these volume problems at the moment. So let's just keep it. Let's just try and keep everything at a reasonable volume. I may have a loose connection actually that makes my voice quiet. But anyway, there we go. Let's stop talking about that. Yeah, here I am. Now, I'm on your show for a specific. It had a specific cause, didn't it?
Yes, it does.
I'm not just here because I'm just producing you. We got nobody else to talk about.
Oh no, not at all. You're here because we actually had some sessions together, and we actually had a hard time trying to figure out what to call those sessions, if you remember correctly.
Well, the thing is, it started. I remember it started. It was an ODD show,
Yes.
and in a way, you kind of challenged me to say, "All right, I bet you couldn't touch me," and in this I felt like, you threw down the challenge there, and I thought, okay, well, let's see. And in a way, the emotion that you had there, I thought, well, it won't be long. And, it just took a few seconds before we could see that there was something going on that really you didn't want to talk about at all in public.
No, you're right.
It was really, first of all, I apologize for sort of publicly eviscerating you and taking you to the most uncomfortable place, but it's like you asked for it, and that's how it all started. And
right.
It's important that you ask, because it was, I believe, when people, you might say, abuse you or whatever happens to people, everybody's trying to heal themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and however that call out to the healing person is embodied, right? And some people have they say, he's got a weird way of putting things, Some people's healing has a weird way of putting itself. And so there we are. There we started. So first of all, through that little process on that show, do you want to kind of describe how it was from your perception? Because there I was talking about something, and what went on for you that took you through that process?
Well, first off, the whole thing was kind of a shock because I had asked you to explain, what you were doing, and you were just like, well, why don't I show you? And I was just like, sure, go ahead, show me. And I just really didn't expect the experience to be so emotional. I just thought, okay, fine, let's go ahead and do this. No big deal. And it turned out to be a really emotional experience. And actually our conversations after that, there were some that were really emotional, and situations of my life that were brought to surface that I didn't fully remember, probably because I didn't want to. I'm sure I didn't want to.
Absolutely. This is part of the process.
Right. But, yeah, it was very, very interesting. I didn't expect that. I don't know what I expected. I guess I really didn't expect anything. I guess I expected something a little bit more mellower, not something to be so so emotional and so personal to where things were coming up that it was like, whoa, snap, do I really want do I really want to go there?
Exactly. You weren't prepared to expose that part of you because you hadn't had it exposed to you. You weren't, you had no idea that it was there.
No.
And this is the thing that I find, this is how it works, is that we don't know it's there because we're not listening to it. And that's the big problem. The reason why people act out. It's not the person is acting out. It's that fragment that is acting out saying, hey, help, I'm trapped within this personality. I'm trying to get out. Can you help me? But it comes out a funny way. Sometimes it has no language.
Right. And for me, it was really funny because during one of our sessions, I was talking to you about the leg pain that I had been having and how even when I was younger, I had it. And then you kind of had me kind of regress and like, well, when was the first time that you remember feeling this pain and the circumstances that were around the pain and led me to tell you about, how my dad would watch TV and he was very inanimate about not being disrupted by anything. I mean, nothing. I think if a fly would have been in his way, he would have blown up at it. But as a young child, I would sit on the couch and he'd be watching TV. Of course, I'd be watching too. And I would want to change my position. Oh, because I was so afraid that he was going to yell at me because I distracted him. I would move very slowly. I mean, so slow. It was like an inch by inch thing. And the whole time watching him to see if he was going to look my way or if there was any sign that I had bothered him. So that was one issue that you had taken me back to. And of course, that puts tension in your legs, that, having to move that slow.
Exactly. And it stays there. I mean, when you're talking about this, what I'm getting is like, I'm too terrified to move. You didn't use that word, but that's what I'm feeling. I'm too terrified to make any sudden move.
Yeah.
It's like being with a wild animal or some kind.
So that's really a good way of putting it. Yeah. That's pretty much how I felt that,
unpredictable.
Yeah, and maybe like a big bear sleeping there or a lion sleeping there. And it's like, if I move the wrong way or I make a noise, I'm going to wake this animal up and they're going to devour me. Yeah. Wow. That's good.
So, I mean, you said earlier that I regressed you. There's no hypnosis here.
Well, no.
Because if you say regressed, I mean, it might be like I'm practicing some sort of, hypnosis. So there's nothing of the sort. Because it's all I'm asking you is like, when you feel this now, when did you first feel this? And that's all I'm doing. That's what Joyce is talking about with regression. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like I'm saying, okay, lie back, listen to my voice, none of that. There's no hypno talk. There is no NLP. We're just going to the feeling. Because like I was saying, and this is what we said right at the beginning, this is not a technique, so to speak. It's a process. Because it's really like, the process of giving birth is a process. Everybody knows how it goes. There's the dilation, there's all these stages, and it's got all these stages. And that's all I'm doing is helping a healing, fragment find its way back to the center.
Right.
That's really the facility. That's really what I'm doing. I'm facilitating that movement, that process. So, yeah. So, again, please go ahead.
The way that it was done through prompts, and I used the word regression because in my mind going through that, I was taken back. I personally was taken back. I could see things. I could remember the feelings, so for me, it was like regressing. So that's why I use the term regression, but no, there was no hypnosis. You simply prompted me. You basically talked to me.
Yeah. Just talking like we're talking, you see.
Right. When I said I had experienced this pain in my legs and you were just like, well, can you tell me the first time you remember feeling that pain? and then I would say that this is what I remember. And then you would ask me about what was going on in my life, what was, the various situations. And like I said, I brought up the one about the couch. And then also, my dad had work nights, and to get to the bathroom, we had to go through the hallway, which was also connected to his bedroom, I'm sorry. And the floor would creak. So I figured out that if I walk on my tiptoes and I'm really careful, the floor won't creak. And it's funny because when this man had to get up to go to work, trying to wake him up it was crazy. He wouldn't get up. But yet if we walked through the hallway and the floor creaked, he was up. It's like, what's up with that? But so that was more tension in the legs from having to sit there, because not only was I tiptoeing, I was being careful, and I was also scared, because I was scared that if I just hit that wrong part of the floor and I make it creak, he's going to yell at me. So that was another thing that was causing tension. And the thing that JP brought to me was that our feelings, not our feelings, things that we go through in our lifetime, like in the childhood with me with these situations, they lead to pain in our body. It could be a physical experience, a mental experience, physical or spiritual. If there is something, wrong in our bodies, JP showed me that a lot of times it goes back further to especially if it can't be resolved. You've just had this issue for so long, like I did, and it can't be resolved. It could be because our bodies remember these things. They remember trauma and various things that have happened in our past. And that's how it comes out. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, the muscle, the cells, the blood remembers everything that's happened to you. And, that you might feel uncomfortable around people and you don't know why. And it's because your body is saying, hang on a second, last time I remember you hung out with this kind of person, this thing happened and I didn't like it. So, and then we get to the point when we lose the contact with our body, because it's so intense. And this happens to many, many, many people.
So are you saying that we actually know why we're having this experience, but we don't want to deal with it, so we ignore it?
Yeah, really, that we have, well, when we say ignore it, look, what I'm saying is that when we interact with other people, in general, if we're not healed, we're asking that other person to heal us. And we act out, or rather some part of us feels comfortable enough to come out and act out in that strange way. And if it's witnessed correctly, and if it is in the right setting, like I'm not having to deal with my own stuff, and somebody can see it and see that, right, that person is actually calling out for help, then you can take the right approach to it. But most of the time, it's just like I'm being annoying. It's like most people who are like with ADHD, hyper, they just really need, well, when I say really need, they're expressing a lack of time spent on them. Literally, their attention deficit, because there was no attention given to them. So how can they know what attention's like?
That's really interesting that you used ADHD as an example, because my stepson had ADHD. And when he was very young, his mom, and I don't mean to bad rap her, I know she had her own issues.
Everybody's got their stuff,
But her stuff reflected onto him. So she kept him in a playpen all the time, or she kept him in the high chair. There were times she would put him in the high chair with some Cheerios in front of the TV and go back to bed. And he would sit there crying. And if he started to cry, she would just go ahead and crank up some music so she didn't have to listen to him. So you saying that, and she left him when he was 2. So he doesn't remember anything, of course, because we don't start to remember until we're 3. But, I could see how that, possibly could have affected him. Because he's fine now. There's, he's 29. And he's been fine. So, that's making sense. Another thing too is, my daughter deals with social anxiety and panic attacks. And we believe that that stems from bullying that she went through when she was younger. And she didn't tell me. I knew that there was some, but she didn't tell me how much was going on until like she was all grown up. And she was dealing with panic attacks, anxiety, social anxiety. And then she said, Mom, I believe my social anxiety stems from being bullied and just her having like this fear of not being accepted, that she's just not good enough. So it's very interesting that you brought that up. I do want to say one more thing as far as like my leg pain went, was that during a session with JP, it was also revealed that I had remembered, which was something I'd forgotten until this session, that my dad had cerebral palsy, and that stemmed from he was born breech. And at that time, they didn't know how to deal with it. Now, this is the story I was told. So if it's true or not, I don't know. It's, this is just what I was told by my grandmother. So he was born with a cerebral palsy, and my great grandfather was a Shriner. So he got my father into the Shriners Hospital, and he was in and out of there as a young child, having various operations as they tried to correct the problem, which was mainly on his right side. And I had remembered during one of the sessions, I remember my dad at times would complain about his legs. He would even yell at them, like, darn you, why are you hurting? Why are you doing this? But I do want to say this, after that session with JP, I have had no pain in my legs ever since then. And I always just thought it was something when I was growing up. I thought it was growing pains. As I matured, it always would happen like before rain. So I figured I was just one of those people who was sensitive to the weather and, oh, it's going to rain. So that's why my legs are cramping. But I can honestly say, since I've talked to JP and that had come to surface, I have not had any pain in my legs at all.
Wow. Well, you see, now, we haven't really spoken, in depth at all since the sessions, which is, in a way, it's a very good thing, because you've gotten on with your life and, all these things, you've literally moved on, which is great, which is fantastic. And really what I ache to hear from many people, it's a wonderful thing. And I'm going back into what you said. I wanted to jump in earlier, but you carried on. But I want to take it back to what you're talking about with your daughter and with your father and with you, is this generational thing. And I find this whole thing fascinating. That's fascinating. Is the way that an anxiety, for instance, is passed down from parent to child, but also from person to person. It could happen to you, between you and another person, or a friend, or, someone at school or something. Is that we project onto, we make people, we share our feelings somehow.
Well, and
go ahead.
I don't think it's just verbally that we share our feelings. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today talking about, the vibrational frequencies that we could actually pick up from other people, and that could be, and I realized that I'm very sensitive to it. And I actually, before, I just thought everybody was like this, that everybody could feel what other people feel, like telling what kind of mood they're in, whether they're happy, whether they're sad, if, they're anxious, you know what I mean? Just telling what's going on with them. I thought everybody could do that. I thought it was just
normally.
Well, we talked about that too. Why some people don't. Is it because they've stifled it because they don't want to feel those feelings?
No. You've explained today why you are so sensitive. You've explained earlier, because you grew up in an environment that was highly unpredictable in terms of just being able to look at a situation and judge it to be safe. There's a sense of actually spending a lot of your time not feeling safe.
Yeah,
You know,
that.
the sofa time, you know, sitting on the sofa. Normally, when I say normally, you know, in general, when you say, yeah, I'm sitting on the sofa, there's no bad attachment to it. It's not a tense place. It's a place of relaxation.
It's
But
supposed to be.
it's supposed to be, but you're brought to a place where, you know, you grew up in this environment where you are not safe on the sofa. Unsafe on the sofa must be, there's lots of good songs in here.
I want to hear how that one goes.
Probably be very tense, you know, the Devo sort of thing. So you were talking about that there was another mirror that you brought up, and it's now passed me by, but there was another mirror to the sitting on the sofa feeling that occurred at another time, and it's like, how did your father ever talk to you about how he was with his father? Was it a tense time with him as well?
No, his dad died when I was like 7. And, after that he started to drink a lot and was kind of disconnected from the family. So I really don't know what his relationship was with his dad. So, you know, he's talked about his mom. He's talked about like the time in the hospital and going home and how he felt about that. Because back in those days, I don't know if it's still like this, and this is really horrible, but they would not let my grandparents go see him except on the weekends. So here's this little boy in this strange place with nobody who really loves him, who truly cares about him. I mean, I'm sure there's people who did, but you know what I mean? People who really love you, people who really care about you. He didn't have that. And he had told me that when he would go home, he would jump into his parents' bed because he wanted that security that he felt he did not have in the hospital. And he knew he was going to have to go back, and he didn't want to go back.
So you have a feeling for those scenarios, right?
You mean like an emotional feeling? Or
yeah, I mean, you have an empathy for that. You know, it's you know, it's there. And those are the things that formed how he was. Now you recognize that as an adult.
Right.
Yeah, but at the time, you didn't realize that his irritation wasn't with you personally.
Oh, I don't know about that. It sure seemed like it.
I know it seemed like it, but if you think about it nowadays, it's like you said, it could be a fly. A fly could annoy him. Anything would annoy him. You know, it's not really personal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
You know,
you're right.
But there's, you know, he also carried with him a vast amount of unprocessed stuff. I mean, you're talking about these terribly traumatic times of being in the hospital and all of those things. And that's what forms his sense of dissociation with himself. You know, these are unbearable places, and in unbearable. All right. So here's the essential why we do these things. You know, why this happens. So if in a general way, if a child experiences an unbearable situation, right, be it too much pain, too much grief, too much emotion, too much stress, you know, essentially we step out of our bodies. Our soul steps away from our body. It's too, you know, this is like too much third dimension, you know. And what then happens is, in order to, we get to the point of needing to express that. You know, it's like a spring. If you coil up a spring, it'll press back. Yeah.
Right.
So we carry all these compressed springs in us because they've not been allowed. They haven't had the right space for them to unfold and unzip. And the way we do that is we tell our story.
You know, it almost sounds to me like what you're saying, because I'm like thinking back at my childhood and kind of like bringing my mom into this now.
Yeah.
And, you know, how she was raised. Her mom died when she was about 7. And her dad went to Michigan with a woman who he'd been having an affair with. So my mom and her brothers and sisters were put into an orphanage. I remember as a child, her always like, she never closed chapters. She left chapters open about, it's like she resented her father for leaving them. She resented the orphanage. She always used to say, of course she was raised Catholic, so she was in a Catholic orphanage, and she was going to become a nun. And she always would say, if something bad happened, that God is punishing me because I didn't become a nun. She would always bring that up all the time and just bring up various issues. Oh, my grandmother died, and I remember, my grandmother hitting my mom, and just all this stuff. So it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the stuff that we carry isn't just our own. It's passed down from generation to generation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Correct. And this is what makes it so complicated. Because, somebody, you may meet somebody, okay? You meet somebody and then you think, oh, that's a nice person. And then, you get to know them. And as they become comfortable, as their personality becomes comfortable with you, then, they feel safe enough to express these parts, as I said, that need healing. And this is what we're doing all the time in relationship. But we don't notice that. We think it's somebody being a pain in the ass.
Yeah, but I think that sometimes, and that's where, I think you came in was because, you prompted me. You asked me questions where, say, if I just met somebody, they're not going to be, well, this is really interesting. When did you first notice this? When did you first feel like that? Well, what was the situation? Because you made me remember things that I had forgotten.
Well, exactly.
Either because they weren't important to me, I didn't want to, whatever the reason, but you prompted me. And then, I know session after session, every time that we had talked, I felt this sense of freedom. I was like, I'm free, all this stuff is out in the open. But like I said, the biggest thing was the pain from my legs actually being gone. I do not remember the last time that my legs hurt like that. Sure, your legs hurt for certain reasons. You bump it or you exercise, but not like they used to. Even if it's going to rain, I'm not having the pain anymore. It's just, it's amazing.
Well, that's lovely.
But then I think of my daughter with the anxiety. Now my mom also, she was a very negative person. She was very depressed. She would live in the past. She used to drink and call me like at 11 o'clock at night crying about my brother because he wouldn't associate with her anymore. And, I would try to cheer her up and stuff. And it seemed like for some weird reason, she liked being in this pathetic place. No matter what I did to reach out to help her, she just kind of wanted to stay there. And I don't know. I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand it. But my daughter thinks that's kind of where her anxiety stems from too, is from my mom.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If you're being listened to, if somebody's saying, I've got a terrible thing going on, and you're a normal, empathetic human being, which is like normal, then you'll listen to them. But the thing is, if the person there has a particular thing that is particularly unhealed, let's say, then you get used to the idea that, oh, well, this is all right. If I just dole out a little bit of my pain bit by bit, then I feel all right. But you don't what that's saying is that actually you're just filling yourself up with somebody's attention energy, like attention. It's all about attention, isn't it? It's all about attention. Attention is an energy. It's a currency.
I never thought that that's what she was doing. And even there, I don't understand why not seek positive attention versus negative attention.
Yeah.
That's she pushed my brother away because she'd call my brother, and my brother had had enough, and he was like, "Don't call me anymore."
Well, exactly. There's positive attention, there's negative attention. What we aim to do with Wolf Spirit Radio is positive attention, which is literally the intention to allow healing to happen. You can't heal anybody. You can only allow them to go through the processes like this birth. Like I said, there's specific stages that healing goes through.
Right.
And, if you recognize them, you can help someone through that. And you can recognize where they are in that position, in that process. And it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's natural. We can all do it. If we don't go through too much intellect, because you get a lot of people who's like read all the Ayurvedas and they're, there's fine. That's good. But do you get it? Do you feel it? Because it's all about the feeling. And in the end, you don't need, how can a shaman who has had no formal education, has never been to a university, doesn't know all the names of these things, how can a shaman heal someone probably better than anybody who's been to a university? You see?
I think, somebody who's been to a university, they're, not to get like into another topic, but they're basically, being brainwashed as far as what that institution wants them to know.
Bingo.
So they're not exposed to the natural ways of doing things. The ways that were used years and years and years ago for centuries and centuries were just completely wiped out. Once the Carnegies and Rothschilds and Rockefellers started giving money to these institutions, then it was like, oh, we're giving you money, so we need to be on the board. Oh, we're giving you money, so use our textbooks. Oh, we're giving you money, so you know what? If anybody who does not go to this institution and they have some kind of medical degree from some place that's practicing holistic medicine, that's not credited. That's, it's not credited. So, I mean, that goes all the way back to there. See, I knew I shouldn't have went there because now I got off topic.
That's all right. We'll bring you back. Cause it's all about the feeling, and now, there's interesting stuff going through the chat room here, which is, here's the thing. People who, now you may call yourself a light worker, you may call yourself I don't know whatever people call themselves, not you, Joyce, but, in general.
Right.
My personal feeling about light workers are people who have incarnated through very dark families and have managed to heal themselves to such an extent that they don't pass it on. Because that's the way you deal with darkness. You take it on in yourself. That's a shamanic perception.
Really?
Is you eat it and like Rasputin drinking cyanide.
Oh, that's totally crazy. That's too scary.
So it's all right. So you've seen The Matrix, right?
Yes.
Okay. So at the end of the first film, Agent Smith and is pouring bullets into Neo, right? And is just blooding against the wall, and there he goes. And then Trinity says, "Don't die, you bastard," and kisses him and says, "I love you." And then he gets up. And what does he do next?
I don't remember.
He holds up his hand because they're shooting at him. And he holds up his hand and says, I don't accept this reality. And the bullets stop midair.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he runs headlong into the agent. Dives directly into the heart of the thing that he's been running from.
Didn't he go through him?
He goes into him and then bursts out from inside.
That's right.
Remember
okay.
that you see his face cracking and the light pouring out, and then the agent explodes and all is left is Neo again.
Right.
And then reality is around him. This is the rebirth. This is the evolution of humanity. We go beyond what we think is life and death. And we are then in a higher dimension, so that we, what was, terrible bullets flying towards us is just, end of that program. That's doing like what Walt is saying.
Right.
This is the essence of what Walt and Nancy are talking about. You see? It's saying, I don't accept that reality. I prefer this one. Here.
Right.
Yeah. This is a better reality. Let's see if that one works.
Yeah, but it's hard when people around you aren't cooperating. When you're trying to recreate that other reality that you want for yourself and somebody else is saying, no, we have to be realistic. It's not like that.
Okay, right. Okay, so here's how you work with that. Now, a light worker, this is the way a light worker would deal with that. You take it inside and say, how did that make me feel? How did that refusal from whoever it is make me feel? Where does it take me to? Again, we go into the feeling. We breathe into the feeling. And the feeling, it will be surprising and empowering if you take that journey. Because then you'll find out, what is it that really disempowers you? And then you can step over it. And then you can hold up and say no. Without being offensive to anybody. Without disturbing the peace of your family. It's really quite amazing, because it's like, I don't know. I felt like it's like, you're walking around in a room, and the room is like half full with water, and everybody's trying to move around and trying to get around each other, and there's ripples and waves and everything. And then suddenly, if you can just like dump the water in the room, let it drain out, and how much easier is it to walk around?
Right.
You see? And it's interesting, because emotions and water, they all go together.
Oh gosh, that is so true.
So
that is so true. Well, and considering we're what? We're like 97% water.
Actually, this is a very disappointing number, but I did the research on this. Babies are 75% water, and we dry out. And strangely enough, women are 55% water, and men are 60% water. Maybe that's the beer belly, but those are the actual scientific results on that. So, but still, it's a significant percentage. A significant proportion of us is water.
Right, and just as water has a memory and retains that, so our bodies would do the same. Wow.
Precisely. Because if something acts in one dimension, if water has a memory in one dimension and it's in another dimension, then it will have the same, the properties will assume. So what you say to you, with your mind as well as with your mouth, will have an effect on your cells, won't they? Emoto proved that beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. But it goes deeper though too, because it goes into our feelings and emotions.
Of course.
Which is one thing that we had talked about too during the sessions. And that's one thing that I'm still working on, is trying to control my feelings. I can control my thoughts. I can control what I say, but my feelings is kind of like another thing, because it's just like, if I love someone, I love someone. If I don't like something, I don't like it. And it's just like, how can I'm trying to figure out how to take those negative feelings that I feel and make it a positive, or make it even just to where it's neither negative or positive.
Well, consider why you would have a feeling like that. What does the feeling make you want to do?
Well, one of the examples that I had used is like with food. This isn't true that I like cauliflower, but I'm just going to say I don't like cauliflower. I'm trying to think.
I agree. I don't like cauliflower. I really, really don't like cauliflower. Not just for the sake of the argument. I just really don't like cauliflower. Go ahead, please. I just wanted to get that out there, just in case anybody wanted to feed me with this aforementioned abomination of vegetable matter. Anyway.
Please don't.
And, people ruin a great meal for me. There's some color. I'll try it. No. It'll taste horrible. No, please go on, just this once. I'll try it. I've tried it before. No. It's the same with, what are those other things? Brussels sprouts.
Oh,
Some people like them and other people can taste them. I can taste them and they're horrible. So, most people just don't taste them. That's what I believe. The reason people like Brussels sprouts is because they actually can't taste them. They're horrible. Anyway, I'll stop. Yeah. Anyway, so meanwhile, back on, you might not like cauliflower. You probably do like cauliflower. But anyway, you might not like cauliflower. Sorry for jumping in.
It's like, I can't help the fact that I don't like that. But, I don't have to have that feeling of disdain that, oh, yuck, I could just be like, having more neutral feelings about it. And that, well, you know what? Other people like it and I think that's great, but I prefer not to ingest it rather than saying I don't like it. So it just, but dealing with the feeling part of it, again, I got the speech down. I've got the thoughts down. It's just trying to calm the feelings down to where I can get more of a neutral feeling versus a negative feeling.
All right. So here's the thing. Let's really take the sword of Damocles, not the sword of Damocles, who's the other one? Who's the one with the sword of thingy? Is it? No. Okay. Oh no, not a sword. It's a razor. Occam's razor. Yeah. Where's, what is, pare it down to what the truth is. And here's the thing. There is a fine distinction, between an emotion and a feeling. Well, it's not a fine distinction, but for a lot of people right. So here's a definition. A feeling is something that you're experiencing, that you're like listening to, you're, sensing, your body is feeling vibrations. That's feeling. Okay. That's like a sense. And then you have emotions, and an emotion, is something that energizes motion, emotion, right? And so if you're, something that energizes motion is something like anger, right? Anger is there in order to, defend ourselves, to defend our integrity and to, get over an obstacle, so it gives you the energy to get something out of your way. That's what I believe anger is for.
Okay, so explain the difference between an emotion and a feeling again, because I kind of see them kind of going hand in hand.
An emotion is part of the process that a feeling is the previous thing to, right? You get the feel. All right. So here's the thing, right? The feeling is your experience of something. And then you may have an association with that feeling. Do you remember I was saying like your body will remember somebody
Right.
like that or some situation like that, and it will feel uncomfortable. That's it telling you that oh, I know this. Now you have the choice then to say, oh, well, so what? Or, how would you deal with a little child tugging at your waistcoat or your coattail saying, I don't like that man, mummy.
You mean how would I deal with that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Say that the feeling was the child pulling at your coattails. I don't like that man, mummy. Right?
So
But what you then do in response to that is the emotion, is driven by the emotion of that. Whether you get angry, whether you just calmly step outside or step out of the situation, you go home or whatever. How you deal with that is your responsibility. What you feel you can't control. If things get intense, then you step out.
It's kind of like reacting or responding.
Yeah.
Are you going to react to it or are you going to respond to it?
Yeah.
And we should be responding versus reacting, correct?
Yes, because responding gives space to the feeling. It says, okay, yes, I hear you. Thank you. Right. I'm now going to do something about it, but I'm going to do it my way because I have a higher perspective on this than you do, little child. And it's all right. And I'm taking care of you. Do you see that's what responding would be? You know,
Right.
whereas reacting would be allowing the child to respond the way it wanted, which might not be appropriate in the current day-to-day situation.
I don't know. These seems like a lot of things are pretty much appropriate and okay.
You know what I'm saying? Well, what I'm saying is that many people actually react. Most people react these days.
Oh, definitely.
Very few people respond. And this is something, again, going back to our friend Dave, Dave Corso, he always say, don't react, respond.
Right.
You know?
And that's the thing too, because that's not necessarily the way that we're raised. You know, a lot of what we do is react rather than respond because we're not raised to react. It's like just this total deprogramming process that we have to go through.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying we don't need people who are, you know, we don't need the most highly trained psychiatrist to tell us what's going on.
I agree.
Your friends can tell you what's going on. And then, you know, if you want to give birth, you go to a midwife, right?
Right.
And they'll help you. You know, if you need help in all of these things, you go to a counselor, and that's what they're for. And it's an interactive process that you willingly go for. I mean, when somebody says, I'm going to send you to the psychiatrist, and it's like, oh God, you know, they're just going to pump me full of drugs.
Well, that's how my mom was when I had offered that she go and speak to somebody about what she was going through. She was appalled because the generation she was raised in, they didn't do that. If you went and you talked to somebody, a psychiatrist or psychologist or counselor, you were crazy. So when I suggested it to her, she was totally appalled. No, I'm not going to speak to somebody, you know, and I was like, it helps, you know, she's like, well, I can talk to you. And I was just like, you know what? Sometimes you need to have somebody who's not involved in the situation to be able to tell you. And I just felt like I was too close to her for her even to listen to me or to think that I understood things. And then trying to get her to realize that, you know what? I'll tell you one thing I learned from her. She taught me by the way she lived. She taught me that I would not worry about things that I cannot control. If I cannot control them, I am not going to sit and worry about them because it's not worth my time. It's not worth my effort. I just forget it. And somebody in the chat was talking about that they had realized at an early age that this is not the way I want to be. And I was pretty much like that too. And even with raising my kids, there was a lot of things ways that my parents had raised us that I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not, you know, but let them be who they are. I'm trying to think of an example that I could give. Oh, one thing was, you know, what my kids talking to me. You know, there is no way that I would have ever went to my dad and go, oh, hey, Dad, I just dropped a hit of acid the other day and thought I'd, you know, tell you about my trip. When I was a teenager, you know, I would have never done that. My mom, I was able to go and talk to her a little bit, you know, but then I think that was because of the fact that during my early teenage years, I had run away from home for like 3 years off and on. And I think she was just afraid of losing me again, that it was like, you could tell me anything you want and I'm not going to critique you at all. I'm not going to say anything. So I kind of think that's why she did that. But, with my dad, there's no way. I would have never talked to him about anything that I was going through. And I didn't want my kids to be like that with me. I feared my father, and it wasn't a respectful fear. It was a genuine fear. And I didn't want my kids to feel that way towards me. So I decided to raise them differently. And the one thing he always said that, oh gosh, I so did not like was he would say, because I said so, hey Dad, can I go spend the night by Gail's house? No. Well, why not? Because I said so. Ha ha ha. I'm the king of my castle. I'm the boss. And I was just like, really? Just give me a simple explanation. You know, give me something that's valid. So the only time I ever said, because I said so to my kids, was when I had already explained to them why they couldn't do something, but that explanation wasn't good enough. Then I just went, you know what? Because I said so. But I always explain to my kids, if I told them they could not do something, I always explain to them why they could not. I didn't want to sit there and put a power play on my kids just because of the fact that I was an adult and I was their mom. So,
swinging the power, the power around.
That's what my dad did, and I didn't want to be like that because it made me afraid of him. You know, I did not love that man. Well, all the time that I was growing up, I didn't love him. As a teenager, I told my mom, I said, you know what? You should just divorce him. You know, I will get a job. You know, my brothers will get a job. We can get a place of our own. Just leave him. I had no love for him at all. You know, and then I matured and I started learning some things and started realizing that, you know what, there's good and bad in everybody. I have to look for the good. If I'm going to see the bad, I have to see the good too. And was able to find some good in him and then was finally able to actually love him. So, and I guess, you know, too, with that, you know, is that not an example of feelings that you cannot control?
Say that again.
I said, is that not an example of having feelings that you can't control?
All right. So how would you, well, feelings that you can't control.
Yeah,
See, you know, they always talk about a complex, right? It's one thing laid on another, that this because of that and that because of this. And then you trace them back and they all kind of wind around and they lay on top of each other. There's all these reasons that this happened before. And like I said, it's all with your, associations, you know, these, associated feelings, and it gets too complicated. And sometimes we just shut down. And those times when we shut down become fragments. And those are the things that come back up to be healed. Does that make sense? So yeah. We get to a point where we're in a real tizwas, and there's all this stuff whizzing around. But when it comes back to it, there's usually one moment of something that happened that we couldn't quite deal with. We found traumatic enough to say, I'll deal with that feeling later. And that's all it takes. That's the beginning moment of what we call denial. You know, so when somebody's, when you see somebody in denial, don't be angry with them. It's just that they had something to deal with that was too much for them at that moment. You know, maybe there was a world war going on, or, you know, something, or a civil war.
All right, what about like, cause one of my kids would be in denial. And my stepson too. It's like I would see them do something and I would be like, why did you just do that? Why didn't you do that? I just sat here and watched you do that. Why did you do that? I didn't do that. So my thing, and tell me if this is right or if it's wrong, my thing was that they knew that they screwed up and they did something wrong. And what I always felt that the reason they were denying it was because they didn't want it to be true. It was like, no, I didn't do that. And as far as they're concerned, they're speaking the truth.
Yeah, well, from their perspective, I mean, now look at your own life, okay? And how your children are, you know, they all have their own lives, but you have these pressures on you that you don't want to burden your children with, all right?
Right.
There are things that you don't talk about because you feel that they would burden your children, right?
Well, it's either that or else I just feel that it's not for them to deal with. They're young and they don't have to know about it like my mom.
Okay. So
my mom would burden me with their finances.
Right. That,
you know, they were in debt and And it was like, here I am, this young kid, and what am I supposed to do about it? You know, if we ever had any financial problems, I mean, now they're older and I talk to them about things, but even still, there are certain things Well, they'll ask me about, and I'll just tell them I really don't feel that you need to know that at this point in time. And they don't. There's just certain things that you should tell kids, and other things they don't need to know. Kids should enjoy their childhood. They should grow up. They should be free to be the children that they were created to be, because once they grow up and they have to go out and get a job and get work, that's it. I mean, you think about it, childhood is a very short period of time in our lives. We spend more time in our lives having to be an adult than we do being a child. Don't you agree?
Well, I'm going back into my second childhood early. I took early retirement at 30, so I'm going into my second childhood early in my 50s. So I see no reason why we shouldn't just enjoy a happy childhood whenever we can.
Okay, maybe let me put it a different way. Enjoying the freedom of not having the responsibilities that you have when you're adult, of having to tend to bills and having to do the things that the adults do that a child doesn't have to do. They don't have to worry about that stuff. It's all done for them. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I promised I'm never going to grow up, because grown-ups don't have any fun. Grown-ups are boring. I don't want to ever be a grown-up.
Corpses. Grown-ups are corpses. Anyway, so let's play Return to Innocence, shall we? Since it's the top of the hour. And the song is called Return to Innocence by Enigma. You know this one?
No.
You do. You'll recognize it.
Welcome back. You're listening to It's Your Life, Live It to the Fullest. I am your host, Joyce Wheeler, and today is Sunday, May 22nd, 2016. You are listening to Wolf Spirit Radio and Ever Beyond Radio. Please remember that we are listener sponsored, so click that button and show us some love. And I am back with my guest, JP. JP, welcome back.
Hello.
I was kind of looking at the chat, and I see a lot of conversations about parents lying to their children, how they feel about it. And that was one thing I said that I wouldn't do too. I never lied to my children. I remember one time my husband, my first husband, he didn't want the kids going into our bedroom. So he told them there was a monster in there. And I said, there's no monster in the bedroom. I said, tell them, look, that's mommy and daddy's room, and there's, we don't want you in there messing with our stuff, so just don't go in there. Explain things to them so that they understand. It's like the majority of parents, they don't treat children like they're actual people. It's just like I believe not lying to kids, but I also believe that we have to watch what we say. Because like somebody said in the chat, if you lie to a child, all you're teaching them to do is to lie. And the words that we say and that we use, children are like parrots. They mimic what we do. They repeat the things that we say. So I didn't want my children telling me no. So I never told my children no. I would say, you can't have that, or that's not for you. Don't do that, but I would never say no. Just like I never told any of my kids that you're a bad boy or you're a bad girl. And I hear people say that, and I think, oh, what are you saying to this child? Why you tell them they're bad? They're not bad. What they did was bad. You could critique what they did and not the person themselves, because again, they're not bad. So you have any thoughts on that?
Whoa, about 3,000. So listen, number one is the ad hominem attack, Instead of saying, that the idea is a bad one, you say that the person is a bad one. That's what ad hominem is, to attack the man, towards the man. This is something that we've had in our, they come up through our traditions. It's like this external reason that things are bad. And it all comes back down to, requiring an external messiah to deal with these external reasons, which puts everybody in a state of victimhood, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And the thing is like they're talking about cycles on there. I wanted to break some of the cycles.
Yeah, well, as I said, this is what light workers are here for. We're here to break the cycle in a generation. That's
right.
That's That's what it really takes. I mean, because it really takes somebody with a lot of light to absorb all that darkness. You know, imagine everybody's got a whole load of white paint. All right, you just got to take a little spot of dark, a little spot of black paint. See how light you can make that grey.
Right.
You know, disperse it until like manure, it's spread around and makes things grow. You know, everything has its order and its place. Even darkness has its place. For instance, if I'm changing a scene in a theatre, I don't want the lights full on. I want the lights completely off so that it can be a nice, smooth changeover. So at that point, being in the dark helps. It helps to separate two lights. How would you know two lights are changing? You know, the light's changing. You know, it goes dark and then it comes on. How do you know you've moved from one space into another? You go through the portal. The portal is always, you know, doors are always, you know, you don't normally see what's beyond the door. We just see the door.
Right. Yeah. So, like on your website, you have personal sessions. So if somebody was interested in, going through what I went through with being able to uncover the reasons or the sources for some of the things that they feel mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, which one of those you've got the dowsing training, contact healing, diagnostics, instruction studio, what would they click on to be able to, find that lost child?
All right. So, let me just see. It would probably come under healing and, let me just see. Personal sessions. Healing and diagnostics. And I think it's, physical diagnostics, astral detox. Well, I mean, in a way, I've made this website like ages ago, and I've kind of moved on a little bit from what I was doing then to what I'm doing now. So yes, it's a good prompt. I should be keeping my website up to date. Basically, you know, a full spectrum detox would kind of include this, because it's full spectrum. So wherever it might be occurring, it'd be on the etheric, physical, or the emotional, or the mental, or in your, you know, other dimensional past lives, future lives, you know, wherever things might be occurring, we can go there and I just say it for what it is and reintegrate it and reintroduce it back to you, because that's just what needs to happen. That's all that is being required of me, to reintroduce you back to you.
All right. So if somebody wanted to contact you so that they could have sessions with you, where do they go to?
Oh, well, you can go to everbeyondradio.com and then, you can just put something in the contact form. Many people do that. They just go to the, you know, contact me and, click on there's a little thing. You put your email and, you can put a message to me. Please don't message me for Simon or for Alex. Just me. You know, if you want, it's my website. Alex has got his website. Simon's got his website. If you can't get any response from them, it's not my issue. Thank you. Sorry about that, but that's what's happening. If you want to talk to me, and, you can request a healing and I can, you basically, it's the same format. A full spectrum detox is basically 90 minutes of me paying very close attention to your inner bodies and you know, higher dimensional selves and things. And, you know, we just tease them all apart. This is what this is. This is what that, this is what its vibration is. You know, what its feeling is, what its quality is. And, it really helps to get things in order, because you see, when you know the order of things, it's much easier to make choices, because you know what policy would be. You know, if you know, when I say the order of things, like, the janitor doesn't make policy decisions, for the company, but he does on occasion buy stock, and that's fine, you know, paper towels and bleach and things. And so within his remit, he's got that that level of influence. And so knowing what your jurisdictions are, as it were, what frequencies your different mental plane, physical plane, emotional plane, where they sit, they give you a very good idea of what your path is, of what's happening next.
So you can determine this with the healing and diagnostics?
That's like a combination of the 7 ray readings and the techniques like the Frank Jordan techniques as well for clearing the chakras and clearing those centers out.
I'm curious about the physical diagnostics, and where you talk about using a remote viewing type process.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about. Essentially, I connect with my highest self, my monad, okay? And from there, I connect from using my monad to anybody else's monad because we're all one, right? So my monad is your monad, as you know. That's the triple quality of God that is within us all, the spark. Yeah? So by connecting into that, then that makes available any other living being anywhere in any universe, multiverse, omniverse, megaverse.
So let's talk about the astral detox.
Okay. Well, that's basically, because most of the time people have astral situations. An astral situation is something that is emotional. It may not actually come in a physical form, but it might, come like as a permanent anxiety about something like that. And that's often due to an attachment, like a little thing, entity.
Right. Or like I was saying with my daughter, having the anxiety due to being bullied from when she was younger.
Yeah.
But
here's the other thing is that she will also be dealing with, a chunk of the anxiety that you were still experiencing before you healed it.
So even though I thought I had everything under control and I was doing the best I could, there was obviously something that I was maybe throwing off as far as frequency goes.
Yeah, you'll still be carrying the same, you'll still be vibrating with that same shock and anxiety. And here's the thing, Joyce, is it's like I still get this picture of being on the sofa terrified. Being terrified on the sofa, it's such a dichotomy. And it's such a, what's that word? Paradox. And that might be something also that is still carrying over. And it's almost like, what's the word? I don't know. It's just still there. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's not just you. It's almost like a universal, and it's what I want to get to. It's like not personal, right? Because we're all dealing with this thing, with this energy of the unpredictable wild animal, the alcoholic father. Why do people become alcoholics? What happens to elephants when they're in a fenced, walled off place? They feel they're jailed. They feel they're in prison. And that's when they go over to the apple trees and get drunk. Otherwise, they wouldn't touch them. They'd say they were poisoned. But this is what they do. They know that they're going to feel less anxiety if they eat these rotten apples.
Right.
And it's the same, humans do exactly the same thing.
So do you think that, because I'm just wondering, I'm sure that some of this gets passed down to our children during the time of conception and the time that they're in the womb. And I'm just wondering if as an unborn child, if they feel more of, our past, emotions, issues that we deal with, and if they get passed on that way. You have thoughts about that?
Well, here's the thing. if you're, all right, if you're undivided, let's put it that way. If you've not had any of these traumatic episodes where you split parts of yourself off, all right, if you're undivided, then you're flowing with every situation. And every energy is just like every other energy. And it's just like, oh, this is an experience. Oh, that's an experience. Oh, this is an experience. And that's very Buddha-like. Yeah. But in the fragmented, broken universe of jagged glass that we live in, nobody's like that. Everybody's got stuff. Everybody, because we're all part of the broken universe, the fragmented universe that is coming together. And it's healing. And like I said at the beginning, people heal in bizarre ways. People express their need to be healed in bizarre ways. Right. And it takes an enlightened witness to witness that and see that what is being presented in front of you is somebody requiring healing instead of somebody just being a pain in the ass.
Right. But do you think that the emotions and the frequencies, the negative frequencies that we have, especially females, do you think that those are given to our children when they're inside the womb or when they're outside of the womb? Or, I mean, I know they can feel emotions, but I'm just thinking more about me, not somebody who's, totally chaotic and, just slinging their emotions around, but somebody who's like being totally conscious and aware that I have this life in me. Whatever emotions I feel, they're going to feel. They can hear me. They know the tone of my voice. Well, I was very conscious of that. So still being that there were things that I hadn't dealt with, was that passed on to my kids in the womb?
Well, it doesn't have to be passed on in the womb because it will be passed on at the appropriate time when it is for them according to how they've arranged their life to be with you.
Right, but I'm just talking like we were talking about my daughter with the anxiety and how, our parents are passing down.
Could you have helped that?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying that you could have done better? Is that what you're saying?
I'm simply seeking knowledge. Uh-huh. That I'm just, trying to figure out.
Here's my theory, right? It's weird, but I believe that the anxieties that we carry from our parents are given through layering of candida. This is that thing that I talked about before, the nung. It's a neural network that is passed across.
Kind of like genetics.
Like a mind virus that is passed from body to body, physically, by mold.
Like DNA?
Well, it affects your DNA, but it's another creature that's living inside of us, little threads.
Oh, so it's a parasite.
Yeah, it's like Morgellons. It's more like Morgellons. In that it's got a success rate because it causes us to demand more of it and to feed it, which is like we crave beer and bread and we want to eat sugar in whatever form it might be.
Okay, so it says on your website that the astral detox, that similarly the emotional astral body can become depleted and diseased.
Yeah. So this
is due to attachments or deceptions, and these can be identified and cleared during a session.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a deception, right? So a deception is like the illusions that people literally labor under, and that you can say, people worry that the sky will fall or something like that. I'm being trivial, but people have these little worries, and again, they all come back down to these moments where something left you, some part of you went into a cupboard, into a closet, and and so but this is what I want to get to, Joyce, is that the reason that these things cause us issues is because they're undealt with. It's like like I was saying before, when we have that feeling, I'm going, I'll deal with this later. I can't deal with this right now. I'll deal with it later. That's the beginning. And we can say that 1,000 times and we will have 1,000 little fragments that we need to deal with. And that's what it becomes our karma.
So astral detox can help people get over these issues.
Yeah. So an astral detox is like, just removing these illusions. And sometimes they're like, what do they call them? Core beliefs, that were implanted.
Right.
Often through trauma. I'm not talking like deliberate trauma, but just like, we have clumsily made our way through evolution. It's like, it's been a Keystone Cops all the way, and we just about make it. Our parents just about made it, and we just about made it. And the reason that you are here is because you just about made it here, and well done. You've gotten here. And that's why we're all here. We're here because we're here because we're here. But we're here because we have to be here at this time, at this moment.
But I believe that we've chosen to be here at this time and moment.
Yeah, this is a big plan. That we've chosen this moment to all telepathically join together. And this is the big thing, is that one day the whole thing, that's what the event is when we're all telepathic, when suddenly, and the other part of it, okay, so here's the thing. What is important about telepathy is that telepathy is the way our soul communicates with our body. Yeah? It's how we drive it. It's the communication system.
I never thought about that before. That's interesting.
How else does a soul drive a body? It's sitting there and it's in the control room like a car. You're in your automobile. What do? You've got pedals and levers and wheels and, you can steer it here and there. So our soul has that relationship to us. How does it communicate with us? It's that quiet voice. And what the dark side found out is that if they could drown out that quiet voice, then they could get people to not be, not be self-driven anymore, to be controlled.
All right. What about the full spectrum detox? Mental, astral, etheric cleansing, 3 bodies, 7 chakras each, plus other vulnerable zones, cords removed, entities recycled.
I know it sounds like a cleaning process, but it is. It is the same thing. And really, it's a sequential 21-step checkup of all your chakras on all 3 of your bodies.
All 3 of our bodies?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we got 6, but 3. All right. The personality body is divided into 3. It's the emotional body, the physical body, and the mental body. Okay. So the mental body is the air body. The emotional body is the liquid body, and the physical body is the earthy body. Yeah. Does that make sense? So, that's that, and they all coexist at the same place, and that's what we call our body, but they're really like 3 systems.
I would agree. Yeah? I totally agree on that. They're 3 separate systems that have to be addressed separately.
Exactly. All right. So in each system, you've got 7 senses, each representing, we depict them as chakras, right? Chakras. But, there are 7 qualities that mostly that's what makes up the full spectrum of those qualities. And so what full spectrum means is like everything from one end to the other, from the lowest frequency to the highest frequency, making sure that they're all clear and ringing nicely. Right. So, chords, you know what chords are?
No, I was going to ask you about that.
All right. What a chord is. It's something that people say, I'm corded. I've been corded by that witch, all that stuff. How can I put this? They say we're on a kind of farm where they're farming our emotions.
Yeah.
Like, there's that film, that animation film, Monsters, Inc.
I like that movie.
Yeah. No, the essence of that is that they were going out of the closet every day, and they were scaring the child shitless at night. And when the child was exuding fear, they would then gather that fear up, and it would run their universe.
Right.
Yeah, that was Monsters Inc. That's really, Actually, when you were talking about your father, it was your husband was saying, maybe there was, maybe he did leave a monster in the bedroom. You never know.
Wow. Yeah, well, he had his own set of issues.
Well, exactly. So everybody's got stuff. So look, Monsters Inc. was about harvesting what's called louche energy, right? The terror and frightenedness of children is don't really want to go there. Anyway, it's a big thing. And
What is a chord?
All right. So what a chord is essentially, let me just think of an example of what a chord would be. Say you had a terrible relationship with somebody who was like a bit, of the dark side, and maybe dabbled a bit and stuff like that. And after that, you find that even though you dumped them, that they're still on your mind, and you're still thinking about them. You're still wondering what's going on with them. Now, that's not normal. You dump someone, you dump them. That's it. They're out of your life. You move on.
I always thought it was normal to wonder what my exes were doing or how they were doing.
Okay, well, to wonder is fine, but to obsessively wonder, that would indicate that there's some kind of connection that is still there.
All right.
And the cord is like an umbilical. You know what umbilical looks like? It's got veins and it's gristly. And it's like every time you think of that person, you think good or bad of them. You're giving them attention energy. Remember I was saying attention is currency.
Right.
So when you're giving, so if you've not let go of somebody, there's still cording. That's what it means. It's like we create these things psychically.
Okay.
And sometimes people implant them deliberately, there are black magicians on every corner, it's everywhere, particularly on the telly, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I don't watch a lot of it. We don't have cable. We don't have satellite. We've got an antenna that gives us 38 channels. I don't watch a whole lot of it because I don't like the commercials, any of them. I usually watch Netflix, or I'll go onto YouTube. That's normally, what I do. And even there, it's not totally safe.
Yeah. The thing is, this thing they call the news. That's really, 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 I mean, in general, not just you, Joyce, but like everybody. Just stop watching the news. Because you're basically going into that's hypnosis. You see these sizzles at the beginning. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, we've got some really doomy news coming up. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, this is really dramatic. Oh, look at these circles. Oh, they're going in opposite directions. Oh, pretty. Good evening. And now we'll put a stop to that. Here's some terrible stuff. We're going to traumatize you now.
Yeah, I haven't watched the news, probably in over 2 years. We stopped watching the news, and it's not just, everything they put, they only show you what they want to show you. And then they put ridiculous stuff on there about these people in Hollywood and what they're doing. Like, I really care about I don't care who wore what to the awards, I don't care who is dressed the best, dressed the worst. I don't care anything about that. Why is that on the news? It's ridiculous. It's a freaking joke. That's how I see it. The news is a freaking joke. It's like, if you want to get a good laugh, watch the news. But other than that, I do not take it seriously. I was listening to Alex Jones and reading some of, what's his name? The Health Ranger. But I can't remember his name, but even with those two, I think that they sold out. I, don't listen to a lot of what they're saying. I'm not sure I can believe what they're saying. I'm not sure who I can believe anymore who's out there, even those who claim to be telling the truth that aren't connected with the mainstream media. So I pretty much just gave up on news. I prefer to stay positive. That's where I want to be. I want to be on a positive frequency. I want to stay positive. And to me, all the news is whether it comes from mainstream media or other sources that are supposed to be reliable, I still see it as just simple negativity. And I'm to the point now. It's like, I know what's going on in the world. I know what the truth is. I don't need to be continuously bombarded by it. I'd rather spend my time helping people, try to figure out how to deal with whatever they're dealing with, to deal with it naturally rather than to be on some pharmaceutical drug that's just turning off a feeling and blocking vitamins and nutrients from even getting into the body. It's just, so that's pretty much where I am.
So, good. So, it's your show. So I shouldn't be saying so. You should be saying so.
So,
exactly.
Let's talk about entities recycled. What's that?
Oh, entities, right. Well, in addition to little cords and things that people suck juice off, it's like people psychically put straws into each other, and for instance, people who have right. Okay. So, what's an obsession? What's an attachment? What's an entity? These are all like stages of thought form. If you put enough attention into a thought, it has its own life. It's like, when Dr. Frankenstein throws that big switch during the lightning and the spark goes into the monster and he goes, and then he starts rising up off the table. You give it energy, you give it attention, you give it life. Anything you give life eventually will come back to you, or will sort of attach itself to somebody else, because there's, all right. Gravity is not what we're told it is. And the reason I'm saying this is that the reason things travel towards each other is because they resonate. They're sitting in the same pond. They're vibrating at the same frequency. They're attuned. They're in tune. They're of a feather. They gather together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, the reason that we stick to the earth is because we're in tune with the earth. Consider that. If you detune from the earth, you can levitate. Consider that.
Right.
It's all about frequency.
Well, that's why they say that they believe that that's why Yahushua was able to walk on the water, because he was in tune with the same frequency.
Exactly. So then we have entities. So, say I'm wandering around and I'm really, really depressed. I'm just, and it's kind of like a psychic fart. Like, what a terrible world this is. And it really builds up, pumps up, and eventually it kind of, takes on a life of its own and floats off into the ethers, right? And it hangs around in the ethers until it finds somebody walking past or somebody close enough that is vibrating at that kind of frequency. Yeah? And then it'll go and attach itself to that person's body. Make sense?
Kind of like a leech.
Yeah. Because, it's not really, I suppose it's like, it's not to be regarded as something negative. It's not to be regarded as something bad. It's just something that is. It gets formed, and it's like a piece of dreck. It needs to be cleaned.
Okay.
Essentially, it's really that's all it is. It's just like a bit of phlegm. Somebody's gobbed on the pavement and you got to clean it up. That's just really what it's about. It's not to make it, oh, it's a terrible evil thing. I command you from the bottom of my, savior and all this stuff. Sledgehammer to crack a peanut. Just take a cloth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Psychically, there's, you don't need to be a great exorcist to deal with some of these things because they're like our own creations sometimes.
Right.
And
right.
And often if you're in a place of having to deal with them, maybe, they're part of the creation of them in the first place.
Right.
Everything comes around.
All right, let's talk about dowsing training. We know about this. We know what it is, but there might be people, because this is going to go on itsyourlifemag.com. It's going to go on the website. And also, as I told you earlier, I'm going to do an article incorporated, and it will go on YouTube.
Cool.
So, let's explain for people who might not know what dowsing training is.
All right. Here's the thing. The truth will make you strong. You agree?
Yes.
Because that's true. And that thought will make you strong as well. And if you know that, then the more truth you seek, the stronger you'll feel.
Right.
So, dowsing uses that principle, is that when you're connected with something that is resonating as true, you will have strength in your body. You'll have chi in your body. And when you have chi in your body, it will do things that you ask it to do. For instance, if you say, if there's a chi flow in my body, then make my pinky and thumb stick together. Or if there's truth in this statement, make these two rods come together, and cross over. Or if there's no truth in it, don't do anything. Or if there's a bit of truth in the question, but it's not actually the right approach to the question, what do you do? Well, for me, my rods go outside. They both point outwards. Our bodies have a way of communicating with us.
Right.
But it's generally through a kind of yes, no, maybe, or yes, no. It can be emphatic, or it could be a bit. That's because you've asked the wrong question. It really likes clear questions, and the skill of a skilled dowser is not in being able to whiz little pendulums around or to spin rods or anything, is to be able to ask exactly the right question.
Okay, and on your website, you have 3 different options using rods, pendulums, and muscle check. The rods, now it says metal L rods. What are those? And if people are interested in viewing them, where could they go?
All right, hang on. Where are you? What page are you on?
Dowsing training.
Dowsing training. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Metal L rods. Yeah. Well, you can make them yourself from a pair of coat hangers, metal coat hangers, and a pair of pliers in 20 minutes. Anybody could do it in 20 minutes. Like, really, it would take 10. Basically, you straighten them out and then bend them in a right angle. So, it's about 2/3, 1/3. That the handle is 1/3 of the rod. Let me just see. Is that right? Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I think. Anyway, I've just got my rod here. My rods I made about 20 years ago when I was making the pyramids. I just got a couple of the welding rods, and they're a lovely bronze. And when you polish it, it's lovely. It's a sort of lovely golden color, and it retains its color for quite a long while before it tarnishes. Anyway, so mine are made of silicon bronze, and it's kind of slightly springy material. But your regular steel coat hanger wires is fine. Really, the rods, the pendulum, it's all about the chi in your body. And eventually you get to a point when you don't even need rods or muscles or anything. I'm not there yet. But there comes a point when you can feel
Right.
in yourself. You ask a question, you can feel your body responding to it. Because I'm sure you've gotten to now by, what method do you use? Do you use pendulum?
For me?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I guess it would be kind of like what you call muscle check. It's just, if it's something physical, I'll hold it in my hand. I'll put my right hand over my heart chakra. And then I'll just say, like when I was going to cleanse the house, I said, white angelica, should I use white angelica to cleanse the negativity of the house? Yes, my body would go forward, or no, my body would go backwards. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've used, and I haven't used it then. I basically, it's funny because I've been listening to this woman channeling, and I was thinking to myself, I'm talking with the Creator. So am I channeling him? I don't know. I can hear him. He speaks to me. He gives me messages in my mind, and I can hear him clearly. And that's usually if I need information, I go to him.
You speak as a him. You say it's a him.
I don't know. That's just part of the brainwashing process I haven't gotten beyond.
But I mean, you feel comfortable with a male inner counterpart.
Again, I never thought about it. It's just, my programming, mm-hmm. And I never sought to, for all I know, the Creator has no sex.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, many, many, many years people have been, speaking about this, and they describe the soul energy as the anima or the animus, because for women it's a male and for men it's a female. This is very, people spoke about this a long time, and that your soul energy would, obviously would be an inner counterpart.
Wait, say that again. The first.
Well, that your soul has been regarded as called the anima or the animus, according to your sex. If your gender, if you're male, you have a female anima, and if you're female, you have a male animus. Does that make sense?
So do you think our souls have genders?
It's just how it appears from our personality. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just how we are comfortable with that as being something that is in us but separate from us. You see? That's why they project the God outside of us, because we have a God inside of us. And I have a goddess and you have a God.
The soul.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure we were on the right page.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what I do, getting back to dowsing.
Yeah.
That's what I do in the way of dowsing. But again, I talk to the Creator and I get answers, and it's been right on. I was told that about meeting my husband. I was just told a lot of different things that did come to pass. And there were things that I was going, no, I don't think so. I wasn't believing what I was hearing. It was kind of like, I was even told my first husband was going to die. And I thought, God, my gosh, you wicked woman. How could you think such a thing? Why would you think that? And I thought that it was me that was saying this to myself, and just other things, and thinking, no, like when I found out when the Creator told me I was going to have a baby, I was like, oh, okay, I've got to be careful, because if I don't protect myself, I'm going to get pregnant, and I don't want that right now. But, I would do that. I would twist things around, because people have told me, oh, you're just, it's what you want. this is what's coming out because this is what you want. When I had said that we were moving to Louisiana, that I had been told that. Oh, because that's what you want. I'm like, excuse me. If I was going to put anything in my head to where I wanted to live, I'd be going to Kauai, Hawaii, not Louisiana. So don't tell me that these thoughts are my own. I don't think so. They're definitely not my own. So just stuff like that. So there's,
Yeah, so there's a sort of, I couldn't have made this stuff up kind of feeling.
Right. Because, I mean, I would, even now, I mean, I'm being told things like Randy and I want to go back to Tennessee. And I'm being told the time's not right. Not now. I'm told I still have work to do here. What that work is, I'm not totally sure. But I'm told that I still have work to do here. It's not time to leave yet. So, and stuff like that. And I'm planning a natural living festival in November. And I was told not to do it. And then I started getting more into energy. And then I heard, well, if you want to do the natural living fest and for it to be successful, you have to talk about energy because we're going to have speakers there. So I was thinking, well, I know some people who do Reiki and, do other things with energy. I can get them. And I'm here. No, you have to give this talk. So here I am, basically a newbie to a lot of this stuff and going, okay, how am I going to give this talk on energy? Well, you're going to have to guide me because, I'm just not totally sure what you want me to do with that. But yeah, so I was just thinking to myself, is this what channeling is like? Does this mean I'm channeling or am I just have this spiritual connection? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so here's the thing. My feeling is that when you're connected to your spirit, right? Your inner self, and it feels like you feel very at home with it. Whatever home might feel like at the time, but it'll feel like you. It'll have the same kind of preferences. Like you're saying, you wouldn't have you'd like to go to Louisiana, but it wouldn't have been your first choice.
No, I didn't want to move here at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
you probably had no thought of it. It wasn't on your list of places that you'd want to go to at all. Like Scotland, for me, I had no idea I would go to Scotland.
The thing is too, is that even like the town that we're living in, it was like we just like picked, Randy just like picked this random town for us to stay in. At least he thought he did. And we were looking at houses and we went to a nearby town called Mandeville and, to look at a house. And when we got into town, Randy and I are just, both of us at the same time, we're like, we don't belong here. This is not where we're supposed to be. But where we landed up staying while we were looking for the house is a very small, very quaint little town. And we felt like we were home. We had that comfortable feeling. This is where I belong. It was like when I was being prepared to leave Chicago and move to West Tennessee. Not too long before that, I had gone to Kauai for the first time. And when I went back to Chicago, I was like, I don't belong here anymore. And I'd never felt that feeling before, but I was just like, I don't belong here anymore. And at that point in time, I had no idea why. But looking back, I could see that I was being totally prepared for that move to Tennessee, just with so many things that were going on at the time. There was something else that I was going to, and even when I went to Tennessee, people were like, you're going to experience culture shock. I mean, I went to living in a big city to living out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was so much the middle of nowhere. We had dial-up. There were no gas lines. that went out to where we lived. We had propane. I'm trying to think what else. I think it's pretty much about it. We just didn't have the.
So, like, bringing it back into what, the metaphysics of it, that you're in the position. Oh, where were we? It's moving. Where? Hang on. It's because you took it all the way to a really detailed thing, and I just wanted to bring it back to something that was more in the center of things. And I've kind of lost my way a bit in the maze. So just give me a cue back in, and I'll keep talking.
All right, just let me finish. The thing I was going to say though is that people said I was going to go through culture shock. I never went through culture shock.
That's it. I got it. Go on.
Slid right in. It was not a big deal.
All right. So here's the thing. Now, today, Joyce sees her past life, her life so far. Yes?
Yes.
Now, if you were to speak to Joyce at the age of 20, you would have some things to say to Joyce, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
And if you were to speak to her at 30, you'd have things to say to her, etc. You understand?
Right.
Okay. That's who your guides are.
That's who what?
That's who your guides are. This is who you're speaking to.
I'm speaking to my guides.
Your guides are you.
My guides are me?
Yeah.
Like from a different dimension?
From a different time, which is a different dimension, yeah.
Oh.
Because time isn't linear, it's everything happening at the same time. We're just moving through it like a paper bag like a stone through a wet paper bag. We dribble through time. So essentially, you find that when you speak to your guides, you're talking to like somebody with hindsight rather than standing in front. And that's how we do it. It's called bootstrapping. You pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You realize that if you can connect with your guides at, say, 30, and your guides are like your own self going back into your mind and rethinking a situation, consider that you could be communicating with your past self by rethinking a situation and thinking other options.
That's very interesting.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
Self-created godhood.
We've got like about
4 months.
Yeah. So
I've got a big show. Actually, you know what's coming up? I'm going to be on YouTube. Ooh.
You are.
Yeah. If you actually go to the if you're on More Spirit Radio, you'll see that down in the latest news listing, there's Doug Ald. And if you follow that, that'll take you to the show notes page, and down on the bottom of that is the YouTube display that will come up when we're when we're on air. So that's how you can get to it.
So is it going to be video?
It'll be video because he's a painter and he's going to talk about his whistleblower paintings. And there's loads of them. He's got about 50 of them. I don't know if he'll go through the whole of them, but it's all our famous whistleblowers: Bob Dean, Alex Collier. Everybody. He's done all these people. We'll be talking about.
Okay, now I'm on the Will Spirit Radio, and I'm looking for what you said, and I don't find anything like that.
If you go to the listen chat page.
That's where I am.
Yeah, scroll down. Scroll down.
Okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
I see it.
There we go. See, everybody can get it. It's so easy.
So if people want to contact you, where should they go to?
They go to my contact page on Ever Beyond Radio. There it is. It's very simple.
Okay, and do you just want to go quickly what kind of services you offer?
Well, basically, at the moment, what I'm really wanting to help people with is this, basically reconnecting, lost fragments. If you're acting if you're acting strangely and you haven't kind of figured it out, or if you feel that you know everything but still strange things are happening, if you think you can remember everything in your life and still strangeness, and you're coming up with very strange reactions to things, overreacting, for instance. You know, turning into a rage when an anger would have done, or just an irritation would have done, you know. Those are symptoms that something is trying to speak. Or if you just really feel the need to speak to somebody.
What about the various issues they're dealing with where they've tried different things before and nothing's worked? I think that might be a sign that it's something.
Well, I mean, the so-called incurable, yeah,
from the past.
Exactly. I mean, it's not really incurable, but they're not cured. You don't cure them in the way that you think that you're going to cure them. It doesn't work like this. It's hard to explain it because taking from an allopathic symptomatic point of view, it doesn't make any sense. But it actually works faster and better than anything else. That's why, in my humble opinion, it releases people very quickly. Unties the knots that bind their hands.
Well, I'll agree with you because, like, what did we do? Like 5 or 6 sessions?
Yeah,
maybe less.
Maybe not even that. Maybe not even that. Yep. Yep. So.
But for every session we did, I remember I was feeling freer and freer and freer. Just being able to look back on things and kind of realize things, and this is this and that is that. And I just know, by the time that we were done, I felt just so free. I felt so good.
Yeah, I'm so glad. And this is a great feedback for me to be able to explain it to your people and to my people and in a way to myself, because we're all. We had these arguments last night. We're thinking, all right, we're all fellow students. That's the way I put it. We're all fellow students, and we're all learning things, and we're all learning how to be human, and how to be humane, and how not to be mindless. How to be more of a Buddha mind, because we've been brainwashed out of it. We've been brainwashed to kind of bulldoze our way through life without giving a damn for anybody. And that's the way,
I actually, one woman, I was listening to a summit, and she said that that pertained to health, and she said that we are all our own laboratories. We're our own science experiment. I think that's how she had put it, but it was good. It was like, yeah, we're a laboratory. We're our own science experiment, constantly trying to figure out, how we work, how we tick, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And if we're not doing that, we should be. And then, our bodies do speak to us. So we need to go ahead and listen to what it's saying in the way of the food that we eat, and, the way that our bodies react or don't react to certain situations, or, we have to listen to our bodies and listen to what they're saying and respond to them. So, JP, I really appreciate you coming on the show and being a guest.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have to go. I'm needing to get the audio ready and get my next guest on the thing. So, thank you very much, Joyce, for bringing me on. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Okay, it was a pleasure to speak with you. You've been listening to It's Your Life, Live It to the Fullest with Joyce Wheeler on Sunday, May 22nd, 2016, listening to World Spirit Radio.